Hey y'all, how you doing? It's Valerie here. And it's a very hot day today. It's supposed to be in the mid 90s. So I'm not really going to be doing a lot outside. But there is one thing I've been needing to get done and I've neglected to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it today. And that is, at the end of March, I went to a grafting class and we grafted some apple trees. Well, two of those grafts have taken. I'm not sure if the other ones have. I'm still waiting. The jury's out. But the two that, are starting to actively grow, I need to get them out of the sawdust, because that's what they suggested in the class, is that you put them in some sawdust or something like that until they start to grow. And then once they start to grow, you get them in soil. They also suggested that you put them in like a nursery area for a year, meaning that you want to plant them somewhere close where you can keep an eye on them. So my nursery area is, I got some 10-gallon pots, some of those like cloth pots that you can get off of Amazon and at Walmart and all those things. I got some of those, and I'm going to put them in those pots and set them in my front yard until probably next spring or next fall. And so I need to get them out of the sawdust and get them in those pots and get some dirt in them. And that's what I'm going to do today. I've also got 2 bare root apple trees that I ordered from Stark Brothers. I got a Granny Smith and a Summer Rambo, and they're already in grow pots. But I need to top them off with a little bit more soil, and I want to move them as well, because I'm going to kind of line them in my yard, and they're just in the middle right now. So I want to get that taken care of as well. And I also want to show you something that I did yesterday. I've been pulling out my tomatoes from the greenhouse. Some of them are growing like up through my shelving, like they're sitting on one shelf and they're growing up through the shelving. So I've been working on getting the ones that are like in the floor, that were in the floor or growing up through shelving, like outside. Those will be the first ones I plant. And any micro dwarfs that I have run across, dwarf or micro dwarf tomatoes that I've run across, I have put in a Greenstalk. I have a 3-tier Greenstalk that's actually my daughter's. I bought it for her last year. But she has since moved apartments, and her new apartment doesn't have any kind of like outside space, so she's unable to use it. So I have it now, and I'm putting it to use. Whenever she's ready for it, it's hers. She can have it back, but in the meantime, I'm going to use it. And I decided to use it for my dwarf and micro dwarf tomatoes. And so I'm going to show you the ones I've got planted up. Now, when I start taking my tomatoes out of my greenhouse and planting them, I might come across a few more, and if so, I'll just plant those up at the time. All my outdoor planting's been a little late this year because we've had cooler temperatures later this year at night than usual, and now it's totally fine to start planting, but it's also in the 90s for the next couple of days, and then after that we've got a little bit of a cool down, so I'm really going to push to get most of my planting done on those days where it's supposed to be significantly cooler, like 20 degrees cooler in some cases. Sorry, there was a bee buzzing around, and I had to check and make sure it wasn't like a yellow jacket. If you see me looking off camera, a lot of times that's what it is. I'm just checking the things flying around me. Alright, I'm going to show you this Greenstalk, and then we'll get to work on the apple trees. Here's the Greenstalk. Let me move this level. As you can see, we had the level on there to get it leveled. This is just the 3-tier. I don't have the bigger one. But I will go ahead and do a tomato tour of what we've got planted in here. This one is the mini carrot tomato, and it's known for having these like this fern-like foliage. And if it's planted in the ground, it says it spreads wide, but if you have it in a container, it acts more like a dwarf or micro dwarf because it doesn't get very tall. But it will spread wide as opposed to growing tall. This one right here is Bunny Blues, and it's a micro dwarf. This one is another carrot tomato, and it's already got a little tomato on it. And this one is Rebel Starfighter Grandpa's Heart, and it is a dwarf. Then we're back to the carrot. We do have some empty pockets on this row still, and I don't have anything in the top row at all. But this bottom row is completely planted. This is an Uluru Ochre dwarf. And honestly, this one, I planted it last year, and I didn't realize it was dwarf because I got my seeds from Baker's Creek, and it did not say in the title that it was dwarf. If you read in the description, it does say dwarf, if I'm not mistaken, but I grew it last year, not realizing I had a dwarf plant. Well, also I had a bad tomato year, and I didn't get very many tomatoes, so that's another reason I thought that it maybe just didn't grow to its full potential because I had such a bad tomato year. This one is Rebel Starfighter Bravado. This one is Rebel Starfighter Penny Lane, and it's a dwarf. Oh, the Bravado is a dwarf. Penny Lane is a dwarf. Rebel Starfighter Penny Lane. Rebel Starfighter Dipper's Delight. It's also a dwarf. Another Rebel Starfighter Bravado. And another Rebel Starfighter Dipper's Delight. And then we're back to the Uluru Ochre. And these on the bottom are all dwarf. There are no mini dwarfs here. I don't know how these are going to do in the containers. Dwarfs and mini dwarfs can be grown in containers, and I've never grown in a Greenstalk, nor have I ever grown my dwarfs or mini dwarfs in a container, so this will be a new experience for me this year. And honestly, I'm kind of glad of it because last year I put them in the ground and the weeds overtook them so quick, which is part of the reason I had to redo my vegetable garden, is because of the weed pressure. And I think in a normal year they would have been fine, but last year the weed pressure was just outrageous, and of all the mini dwarfs and dwarfs that I had, I only got a small handful of fruit because the weeds just overtook them, and they were shaded out so quickly that they hardly flowered or got fruit. Like I said, I got a handful, and honestly, I missed quite a bit of fruit because the weeds just hid them. So having them in the containers this year will definitely help me know when they're ripe, and definitely have less chance of, and I definitely won't have any weeds competing with them. Sorry, there's like a cute little bumble was hovering right near my head, and it distracted me a little bit. These two trees right here are the two Stark Brothers trees that I need to move, so I think I'm going to move those first, and then I'm going to go grab the trees that we grafted, and then I'm going to go get some soil and plant the ones that need planted and fill the, see those grow bags right there? They're not quite full. I need to fill those up a little more, so I'm just going to go work on all that. Those trees are on dwarf rootstock, so are the ones we grafted. You're supposed to stake any apple trees on dwarf rootstock, so I still need to get stakes for those, but once I do, I'll get them staked. But for now, I'm just moving them so they're in a better position. And let me take you over here and show you the grafted trees. Now, when we did these, they said to keep them, they suggested a place like your basement or your garage, but since I had neither one of those things, we put them under this pine tree because it's in shade and it's cool compared to everywhere else. And that's the main thing, is you don't want it somewhere where it's getting beaten with sun. You want it somewhere where it's got protection from wind. And this was the best place that we had. So Here's one of them. As you can see, it's starting to take off. And that's the second one. This one right here, I keep having to pick blooms on because it's trying to bloom, being that small, and that's a no-go. But you see how they're just in some sawdust. Well, actually, I've got mine in peanut shells. I know most people don't have access to peanut shell, but they did suggest sawdust. I didn't or like wood chips. I didn't have any of those. I had this peanut shell, so that's what I used. And we still have several here that haven't really done anything yet. So we're just keeping an eye on them, and we'll see. I was reading up on it, and apparently it can take a little while for the grafts to take. But the two that have taken, we need to get those into some dirt. So I'm going to go grab a couple of grow bags out of my greenhouse and go scoop some compost into a couple of buckets, and then I'll meet you back over in my yard and we'll get these planted.
I don't know where I'm going. World is open wide. Headed for the...
So the first thing I'm going to do is top these planters off with some of this compost here, and then after that's done, I will get the other ones planted.
Hitching me a ride. Been to valley bottoms, swung on old grapevines.
So here's my first grafted plant, and this is a Knowles Mala, and the guy that ran the class said that he's not sure what variety this is, and so he just named it Knowles Mala after, it's a shortened version of his wife's name because this is her favorite apple. I honestly can't remember if he said he doesn't remember what it is or it's a volunteer. Either way, we've got it labeled as Knowles Mala. It's his wife's favorite one, and Knowles Mala is shorthand for her name. So I'm going to carefully dump out this peanut because I don't want to hit this end and dislodge the newly formed scar. It's still in a very gentle, precarious state. So I want to try to get as much of this out as I can. And I'm just going to leave it here and use it as a mulch layer. It's fine. I'm just going to leave it dumped here. Okay. So I've got the bare root out. Just dump this. Kind of spread it. Nice little mulch layer for in front of my greenhouse. And then for this grow bag, thank goodness for that shade, the cloud coverage. I've got a couple bags of soil. I'm going to do a combination of potting soil and compost.
Search the forest for the stories I would gather over time.
I may have to go get some more compost. I'm not sure how much it's going to take to fill these pots up.
With a baggie in my pocket, fresh dirt on my shoes, strolling down a back road, singing grateful.
I'm going to, like I said, I need to get stakes and stake these up. But that's kind of the last thing left to do. Actually, I think I'm going to use one more bag of my potting soil for this, and I might just have to go grab another bag for the next one. I can't find one near, which I might have one over there. All right, that looks even better. Now it'll be able to get some nutrients and plenty of sun to grow. So let me move this over here beside my other two trees, and then I will go get some soil and come back and do the next one.
I'm just a drifter, like smoke from a flickering flame, but I follow where the fireflies whisper my name. You can call it strange, you can call it fate.
I found a couple of partial bags of potting soil just laying around my garden. So I grabbed those. One of the bags is mostly full and the other 2 bags are partially full, so I think it'll be enough with the bag I already have and with the compost. So once again, I'm just going to tip this and dig out the peanut shell. This is just ground up peanut shell. When you get it, it's pelletized. I guess it's a byproduct of the peanut industry. It's not salted or anything. It's just ground up peanut shell. And I just use it like I would wood chips or aged sawdust. I use it as a mulch. This one doesn't have as healthy of a root system as that last one, but it still looks pretty good. Let's get this dumped here. Just spread it. That'll be a nice layer of sawdust or mulch for this area. Now this one right here is a gala apple, and I keep having to pinch flowers off of this one. It wants to bloom so bad, but you're not supposed to let it get fruit. And if you see any like leaves growing on the rootstock, you're supposed to take those off as well, because you want the energy to be diverted to healing the graft and to leafing out your graft. Let's set this up here out of the way. Where did I put my grow bag? Right here. These are 10-gallon grow bags. I think I said that already, but this should be plenty enough space until I'm able to get them in the ground. It'll either be in spring or fall, depending on when the area's set up and I guess how well they grow. I know it says to wait a year and have them in like a nursery area to where you're able to keep an eye on them. And technically in the springtime it will be a year, so I'll either get them planted then or I'll wait until fall. I won't do it in the middle of summer. Alright, there's my compost. Hopefully I've got enough soil here and I don't have to go grab another bag. You know, this is their first time being in full sun, and it's on one of the hottest days. It is the hottest day we've had so far this year. It's unseasonably hot today. I'm pouring the sweat. But my soil is already moist. So this evening, whenever the sun's not so intense, I will come out here and give all of this stuff, my tomatoes, my trees, everything that's out here will get a really good drink this evening. I know some people like to water in the morning, and I do see the merits of that. I understand the reasoning, but I like to water in the evening so that way the water doesn't instantly evaporate off. When I was growing up, we always watered in the evening. I know some people water in the morning because it's less likely to breed disease and all that. I get the reasoning behind it, but also all these years of my whole life, I've been doing it in the evening, and it's been fine. Now, that's not to say if I came out in the morning and something looked like it needed watered, I would water it. Same thing, if it's the middle of the day and the sun's shining down like this and something's looking wilty, I'll water it. If it needs a drink, it needs a drink. That looks pretty good. Let's dig down. Get this planted in there. I may come through and add either another scoop of compost or some more potting soil to this. But it's not necessary. I mean, it's in there deep. It's got plenty of soil, and it's fine for now. Like I said, it just depends. I'll live with it for a minute, and I may top off these bags yet again with some more compost and all that, but I'm going to go set these in over there with the other ones.
And it sure feels great. I had a chat with a trucker who gave me a lift.
Came over to sit in the shade for this. Can you see how red my face is? Under the shade with that breeze blowing, it feels good, but man, it's a scorcher out there. And sweating instantly, honestly, when you come out. I remembered that whenever I was taking that plant, I saw that I had a bucket of soil that I'd been dumping. It was from seeds that hadn't germinated, so none of the nutrients were out of it in the aspect that plants had been eating the nutrients in the soil. That was soil that was from winter sowing that never germinated or things in my greenhouse that never germinated. I've just been dumping it and kind of like cleaning things up, gathering my pots and trying to get my front yard cleaned out where all my winter sowing was. I had a bad winter sowing experience this year. I mean, I did get a handful of things that germinated, like my yarrow germinated, my English daisies germinated. I have several things that germinated. I can't think of them all right now, but I had a lot of failure. But also, I blame it on old seed because I had a lot of seed that was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And my thought was, I'm just going to plant them all and see what happens. And as expected, I had a lot of failure. I did really kind of expect for that to happen because some of that seed was real old. And plus, I got them in seed swaps. A lot of them in seed swaps. So who knows how long the person that had the seeds had them before they sent them to me. Like, I don't know if they had them for like a year or if they were 5 years old before they were even sent to me. And even though there are rules about how old your seed should be, I mean, I'm sure people sometimes send seeds older than what they're supposed to be for the rules. Like if something says that, it can't be more than 3 years old, it doesn't surprise me if someone sends 4-year-old seeds. And if they're repackaged, like in the little envelopes, there's no date on them to when they were actually, what year they were actually for. So you just have to take the person's word for it. And I'm not complaining, like the vast majority of all the seeds I've ever gotten from a seed swap is germinated. I've only ever had a couple of times where stuff hasn't germinated. And honestly, I want to say that's from young gardeners because the ones that didn't germinate, they didn't actually get any seed pods. Like they got the dead flower, but there were no seeds in it because in my opinion, it was probably just their first year collecting seeds and they didn't quite know what they were looking for. Like for instance, I got some zinnias and some asters that there were no seeds in it. The flower head was there where the seeds was supposed to be, but they were all immature. And I would say that's just a novice. It was them not realizing that the seeds weren't developed in there yet. They just took them too soon. And I'm not going to be upset at anybody for that. I've been there. Like I was once a young gardener and clipped off a seed head too early. So I'm not mad about it. I'm just trying to paint the picture of the reality of the situation. That's the only seeds that I've had that haven't germinated besides the ones I did this year. And I would say that's most likely my fault because I just kept them too long before I planted them. Some of them I didn't have a spot for previously. Some of them I just forgot they existed. So when I was going through my seeds this winter, I was trying really hard to just get a lot of my older seed and just go through them to see if they were still viable. And I mean, honestly, it also could have been user error. Maybe I didn't keep the jugs wet enough, or who knows, a myriad of things could have happened. Like I said, I did get some good germination on several things, but the stuff that didn't germinate was mainly older seed. In case you all are in this area, I'm going to tell you where I did that grafting class. It was at the UYEW Mountain Center, and it is in West Virginia, and I'm having a hard time remembering the city right now. For us, it's a 2.5-hour drive. So I think it's closer to the border of like either Maryland or Virginia. So if you happen to be within driving distance of this place, it happens at the end of March. but the sign-ups for it, I think, start sometime around January or February, and there is a small fee. I paid $25, and that could go up, but this year it was $25, and we brought home 5 trees, five grafted trees each. Me and my husband both went, so we both paid, and we both got 5 trees each, and they had some leftover rootstock, so we got to bring a couple extra rootstock home so we could try a couple of the trees from our own orchard, and that was cool too. So basically for that $50, we got 10 trees on dwarf rootstock, which if you've ever bought fruit trees, you know that dwarf rootstock is more expensive than like semi-dwarf or just standard. So I just wanted to let you know, once again, that's at the U Mountain Center. In case you're somewhere within the area and you would like to come out for that, I would say, I just look for Facebook notifications. If you type in the U Mountain Center, they do other workshops throughout the year, so it might be worth just like looking and seeing what all they've got available. I think they also have a website, so just type in the U Mountain Center and see what that brings up, and they might have other classes you're interested in too. I just did the grafting class there. I think they have like an herbal thing coming up. If it hasn't, either it just happened or it's coming up. I'm not quite sure it was. It's some kind of class. So, and they have like nature walks, and just go online and Google it and read about it. But if you're in this area, it might be worth you going and checking out. Since today is so hot, this is probably all I'm going to do in the garden today, but those trees have really been needing planted, so it's been gnawing at me to get it done. And yesterday I was going to do it, but I planted up the Greenstalk instead. And then, you know, things just happen. But it's supposed to be really hot tomorrow, too. So I don't know what I'll be able to get done tomorrow. But for today, this is all I've got for you in the garden. It's so hot, I'm sweaty, and no one should be out in this heat unless they absolutely have to. That being said, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and doing these gardening tasks. It truly does make it way more enjoyable. And I just like hanging out with you guys and chatting. I will see you on the next one. Bye.